Hey, it's Wes Pruitt from 4-Star Sports Media. The Ozarks have hockey fever, and 4-Star Sports Media is your cure. Get exclusive Arkansas hockey coverage, player stories, and everything that makes Arkansas hockey unstoppable. Hogs can skate, and at 4-Star Sports Media, hockey lives, breathes, and breaks the ice. Podcasts, live shows, and expert takes all in one place. 4star.live on web and 4-Star Sports M on X.
Welcome to the Sports Buffet, where you always leave full of sports. Now, to your host with the menu for today, Wes Pruitt.
Welcome into the Sports Buffet, folks, right here on 4-Star Sports Media, coming to you from the Athletic Brewing Studios. I'm Wes Pruitt, and if anyone told you that the sports world slows down in June, well, folks, they absolutely lied to your face. This is not a dead period. This is a pressure season. This is when legacies get tested, where postseason games, like the one I'm watching up here on my phone, start carrying extra weight, and where one college football story, like the one we're going to talk about tonight, can shake the structure of the entire system. Tonight's plate is, as always, loaded. We're going to hit the NBA Finals. We'll hit the Stanley Cup Final, college football, Major League Baseball, and the UFL. We've got New York Knicks trying to tighten its grip on the finals. We got Vegas and Carolina skating to pure chaos on the ice. And you got Brendan Sorsby sitting in the middle of a ruling that now has the Big 12 and the NCAA at major consequences. So lock in, share the show, subscribe on every platform, and let's get to the buffet. The Sports Buffet tonight is brought to you by our friends at SeatGeek. If you are looking for ways to save money on tickets, head to SeatGeek now. We have a promo code that is up on the screen. But if you're bouncing between apps trying to figure out whether a ticket is actually a good deal or not, you're doing it the hard way. SeatGeek pulls tickets together in one place so you can find the right seat for you, the fan. Whether you're trying to get to the NBA Finals game, summer MLB game, college football game coming up on Saturday or Sunday, or a big event on your calendar, SeatGeek is the move. Use promo code, it's also on the screen right now, but use promo code 4-Star Sports Media, all capital letters, for $20 off your first ticket purchase of $50 or more. Once again, that's 4-Star Sports Media for $20 off your first ticket purchase or more. SeatGeek, get in the game. You're listening to the Sports Buffet from the Athletic Brewing Company Studios. Let's hit the hardwood. All right, let's start with the NBA. I've got the game going over here on my phone. I will not give any scores away. I don't want to ruin it for anyone. But the reason I start with the NBA is this is where the pressure starts looking different. And right now, the New York Knicks are up 2-0 on the San Antonio Spurs. Game 3 is back at MSG tonight for the first finals game there since 1999. That alone should tell you what the atmosphere is like. This is one of those nights where the building is going to carry its history, emotion, and expectation all simultaneously. And if you just read, oh, well, the Knicks are up 2-0, you might think New York is rolling. But if you look closer, the Knicks won game 1 by 10, 105-95, survived game 2 by a single point, 105-104. So, yes, you look, and yes, they are up 2-0. They are currently winning the series, but it has not been a cruise for the Knicks. These margins are very thin, and that matters because one Spurs road win, a la tonight, could change the entire center of the finals instantaneously. So what gives the Knicks right now real momentum in the playoff picture? Well, they come into game 3 chasing their 14th straight or consecutive postseason win after they swept Cleveland in the Eastern Conference Finals, and they haven't lost so far in the finals. Folks, that's not just confidence. That's a team that's found rhythm, trust, and a late-game clarity at exactly the right time. Then you look on the other side of the court. You look at San Antonio. They took a much different road to get to the finals. The Spurs survived Oklahoma City in 7 games of the Western Conference Finals which tells you two things. Number one, this team has already been tested under maximum stress and maximum pressure situations. And number two, they don't have a lot of room for emotional letdown right now because they just finished a game. When you go 7 in the previous round and then you drop the first 2, your margin for error is absolutely zero. It's gone. So here's what I'm watching specifically tonight. Number one, can the Spurs get easier looks early in Game 3? Now, if you watch the game right now, we're nearing the end of the first quarter. I'm not going to give the score away. But first quarters in these spots are all about nerves. If San Antonio comes out light and lives in the contested mid-range, this could potentially snowball into a win for San Antonio. Number two, how much on-ball creation do the Knicks have if the Spurs junk up the matchups? When I say that, I'm saying if you've watched this series so far, New York has thrived when they can keep their preferred ball handlers, Jalen Brunson and others, in their comfort zones. And if San Antonio can force secondary guys to make shots, initiate, you may have the Knicks look a little more human than they have so far in these playoffs. And if you listen to this show, Sports Buffet, all right here on the 4-Star Sports Media Network, we've talked about how this Knicks team has really been impressive. And it's all, Danhausen, WWE. The curse has been removed. The curse is gone. But can they keep them in their comfort zone? Can the Knicks look human? And then number three is the whistle and foul trouble. In a finals game at Madison Square Garden, first finals game since 1999, the atmosphere is going to be insane. How the officiating crew set the tone in the first quarter or second quarter is really going to matter. And then are they going to let contact go on drives, or does this become a free throw series? So the question really is simple. Is this where the Knicks take complete command, or is this where the Spurs prove, hey, we can actually punch back? If New York wins Game 3 at home, we're not talking about a competitive finals anymore. We're talking about a stranglehold. If San Antonio gets the win on the road, then suddenly all the talk shifts from New York's momentum to whether the Spurs just stole one and really turned the series around. And that is why this matters so much. This is where stars stop being promising and start becoming permanent. This is where a player like Wemby, young, hasn't been here before. This is where he can really learn. And so far he's learned the hard way, being down 2-0 in the finals. All right, let's jump over to college football. From pressure on the hardwood, let's go look at a different kind of pressure. It's a pressure in college football, legal pressure, institutional pressure, and a story that says a lot about where NCAA stands right now. As we know, Texas Tech quarterback Brendan Sorsby was granted today a temporary injunction that restored his eligibility for the 2026 season after the NCAA had ruled him ineligible because of sports gambling violations. Reports today indicated that he's expected to miss the first 2 games, which means this ruling didn't just soften the punishment, it completely changed the practical outcome for Texas Tech and the Big 12 race. Moreover, more importantly, it changes the story nationally. And the reason it changes it is because the numbers are massive. Sorsby admitted to more than 9,000 bets totaling over $90,000, and then the NCAA case specifically included at least 40 bets totaling more than $850 on Indiana football games while he was there as a freshman in the 2022 season. Plainly, as we know, everyone knows this. If you don't know this, you've been living under a rock or you just want to be a dumbass. But under NCAA rules, even one bet on your team can trigger a lifetime ban, which is why the original punishment was as severe as it was. But now you add different layers to it. There is a real addiction layer to this. Sorsby himself entered treatment, was diagnosed with a gambling disorder and anxiety disorder, and did complete a 35-day inpatient rehabilitation program. So this is not just a scandal story, which we've seen numerous times across sports. This also is a human story about addiction, treatment, accountability, and what happens when a player tries to rebuild while the governing body is still trying to bury him. But now this story has moved well beyond one player. Today we saw Big 12 Commissioner Brett Yormark say that the ramifications of today's ruling are, quote, significant and could have, quote, broad impacts across college athletics, end quote, creating additional, quote, great concern across the membership. He said that he's been consulting with key stakeholders, scheduled a meeting with conference athletic directors and the executive board this week, and the league is in touch with NCAA President Charlie Baker and expects the NCAA to appeal the order in the next 24 to 48 hours. So this story is not cooling off tonight. As a matter of fact, it's escalating, and it's escalating quickly. And that matters because this is no longer just Texas Tech protecting one quarterback. This is now a power conference level alarm bell. The Big 12 is openly telling you this ruling could reshape enforcement, eligibility, and how legal challenges work across college sports. And if the NCAA does file that appeal quickly, then this story shifts from a shocking ruling into a full-blown institutional fight between conferences, courts, and the NCAA itself. Now, let me be clear about something. Betting on your own team is a serious line, as it should be. That part cannot be brushed aside here, people. You can support someone seeking help for addiction and still acknowledge that wagering on their own team crosses a line that every sport has treated as sacred for over a century. But there's two things here. Number one, what this ruling shows is that the NCAA power is no longer absolute. Once a courtroom can step in, narrow the punishment, and override the practical impact of NCAA discipline, then every future athlete sees a roadmap. If there's a star player facing a season-long or career-long penalty, now they're just thinking, do I just find a judge instead of accepting the ruling? Because I want to zoom out on this for a second. Because if you're Texas Tech and you're the Big 12, then suddenly you've taken a situation that looked like a total loss and turned it into a competitive advantage. And if you're Sorsby, if he is on the field by week 3, that also changes Texas Tech's ceiling as a football team. But then the question comes in, where does the College Football Committee potentially see Texas Tech? We've seen other conferences today, SEC and others, come out and say, hey, we're potentially looking at possibly not even playing Texas Tech this year. So, what happens? How does that work? How does that get fixed? Because the Big 12 is on high alert, as they should be. But for other conferences, you have to think about, they're watching this and saying, do we want these fights decided in Indianapolis or in local courtrooms? Because it's obvious, once lawyers get involved, every league's risk profile completely changes. And then for fans, this forces the fan to watch with a hard question. Are we okay with the idea that you can bet on your own team, get caught, get diagnosed with an addiction, go to treatment, and then use the courts to get yourself back on the field? Some people out there will say yes. Some will say absolutely not. But the sport of college sports, college athletics, football specifically, has to live in that tension. And that's why this is not just a Texas Tech story. It's a Big 12 story. It's a college athletics governance story. And if that appeal goes the way the conference is bracing for, this becomes one of the most important offseason tests the NCAA authority has potentially ever seen. And remember, this is all happening before we even get into realignment, the 12-team playoff, the money race in the SEC and the Big Ten. College football off seasons aren't quiet anymore. They're a completely different kind of loud. And at the beginning of the show, I said, if someone tells you that sports takes breaks in June, they're lying to your face. Sports Buffet is also brought to you by Athletic Brewing Company. If you love the taste of great craft beer, but you still need to be sharp the next morning, this is where Athletic is the answer. It's perfect for late night games, post-show work, or just winding down after without dragging into the next day. You get flavor, the ritual, the vibe, without sacrificing the next morning, and they sponsor us here at 4-Star Sports Media. We will actually be out in Bentonville, Arkansas, this coming up Saturday, the 13th. Athletic Brewing Company will be out there. We will be as well broadcasting live. Stay tuned for that. The Bentonville Bike Festival out in Bentonville, Arkansas. But you're tuned in to the Sports Buffet for the Athletic Brewing Company studios. Let's head to the ice. Let's now put on the skates. Let's hit the NHL because the Stanley Cup final has already gone completely off the rails in the best possible way, to be honest with you. Vegas does lead Carolina right now 2-1 going into Game 4, which is tomorrow night. But you cannot talk about the series without mentioning or talking in detail, which is what we're going to do, about the insanity of the previous game, Game 3. Vegas won this game 5-4 in double overtime. But that final score does not capture how wild this game really was. The Golden Knights jumped out to a 4-0 lead, and that lead led all the way through to the third and final period of regulation. And at that point, it looked like Carolina was done. It looked like they were done. People were had turned the TV off. But then that's when the Hurricanes exploded for 3 goals in 39 seconds. Yes, I said 3 goals in 39 seconds. That's the fastest stretch for 3 goals in Stanley Cup final history. And they would eventually tie the game 4-4 on a power play goal with under 2 minutes to go in regulation. Just that comeback in itself would have makes the game unforgettable. But then you go into a double overtime situation, which, yes, Vegas would still get the win, which is the kind of result that completely twists the psychologicalness of a series when Carolina proved it could essentially come back from the dead. But Vegas also proved that, hey, even after blowing and choking out a 4-0 lead, we can come back and get the last punch. But then you add in Mitch Marner's fastest hat trick in Stanley Cup Finals history to that same game. And now this series has absolutely everything you can want if you're a hockey fan or if you're a sports fan for that matter. Elite shot making, emotional swings for damn sure. Overtime pressure. This has been overtime playoffs has been insane this year. Real questions about whether Carolina can recover mentally after doing what had never been done before. And then you're still only down 1 game. But here's the emotional split of this series. Can the Hurricanes tell themselves, hey, we found something. We cracked them. We can score. But we got to be able to score and push back and get wins. Vegas can look across the ice and say, hey, you threw your best punch. You emptied the tank. We still took the game. And this is why playoff hockey is different. I was talking to a buddy of mine about this the other day. One bounce can change not only the entire series, but an entire season. One overtime shift, one missed shift can reshape a series. One goaltending decision or mistake can completely rewrite the next 2 games or the series, or it could rewrite history. Vegas currently does have the lead. Carolina has proven that it can respond. Let's also not forget how good Carolina is at home. Now, yes, this series is currently still in Vegas, be on tomorrow night, Tuesday night. Game 4 is going to tell us which emotion carries more weight, and that's confidence or regret. All right, let's jump over to MLB. That's Major League Baseball, folks. And we're in that part of the season where Flash starts giving way to endurance. And a few teams are already telling you that they're built for the long haul now. And let's start with the AL East. Both Tampa Bay and the New York Yankees, Tampa Bay Rays, and New York Yankees are basically running a two-team knife fight at the top. The Rays currently are 37-25. The Yankees right there with them at roughly around 38-26. Essentially tied on percentage with both clubs already past 35 wins. And Tampa has been a machine at home, while the Yankees have piled up a huge, massive run differential. Now, a lot of people don't understand. Run differential matters. You can fluke your way to a good record in one-run games for a while, but when you are outscoring teams by a massive margin, that's a sign of sustainable dominance and also powerful offense. Now, this is where this kind of been surprising. The AL Central right now, Cleveland is hanging on at the top, but then you see a team in the Chicago White Sox that are lurking just a few games back. Nobody's running away with anything right now, and if you're Chicago or a team like Kansas City struggling and others, but if you're a team like Chicago and Cleveland, you've got to continue to play well because that team right behind you could very well be in front of you very quickly, and it's going to be very intriguing to see which front office is most aggressive by the deadline to see if they can go ahead and make that push for the postseason and potentially a pennant. When you go to the AL West, it's Seattle in the front. Texas is right behind them. Both clubs are hovering a little bit over 500 right now with positive run differentials. And then you got Houston, which is stuck more in the middle of the standings right now. And that's a weird sentence to say if you've watched about the last decade of baseball. When you look at the AL West right now, Seattle, their pitching staff has been very, very, very impressive. But when you look around this league, you look at the National League, the Braves are doing what Braves things are doing. They got the best record in baseball and a served triple-digit positive run differential. I'll say that again. The Braves have a triple-digit run differential, especially over the last 10 games. Elite record, elite differential, hot form is exactly what a true World Series favorite looks like in June. So when you're watching baseball right now, you can't just look at the standings, which is what a lot of people will do. They'll go look at the standings and go, oh, that team sucks. You can't do that. You got to look at how these teams are winning. Are they dominating in run differential like the Braves and the Yankees have been doing? Are they leading on a great home record like the Rays, Tampa Bay, has been doing? Or are they surviving more than thriving with thin wins that might crack in August? This is separation month. This is where June, July, this is where you see teams really start to separate, and you start to find out which teams are built for the 162 games, which is a very long season. Or you find out which ones are just built to be cute in May. We've covered the spring football, United Football League, for quite some time now. And as we move over to spring football, it's quietly turned, the UFL has quietly turned this year into one of the most, probably their most serious season yet. It kicked off way back on March 27th. It ran through a 10-week regular season, which ended recently on May 31st. All 8 teams in a single table format instead of conferences. But from there, the top 4 advanced into league semifinals, and now we're starting a playoff bracket that actually feels like something that people should really care about. But when you look at this league as a whole, I mean, you've got games on ESPN, ABC, Fox, streaming on ESPN plus the Fox Sports app. So the visibility is there. And it's not a grainy stream. It's not CSTV back in the day that's in the corner of the internet somewhere. But it's on the same platforms that fans are already looking for content on. They're already on the ESPN app. They're already on these other apps. So if you look at the postseason, it's delivering competitive football. DC knocked off Orlando in a one-score game. Louisville beat St. Louis by just a couple of possessions to set up a championship game coming up. But those scores tell you the style, real scoring, real fourth quarter stakes. Not a 13-3 rock fight where nobody can complete a pass, but this team has shown, this league, has shown this year that with some real partners in TV, with ESPN behind them, as well as Fox and others, that there's a real possibility this league can stick around. And that's how you build staying power, not by pretending that you're the NFL, but by giving fans a credible product, giving players a real opportunity, and giving TV partners something that fills the post-Super Bowl void without feeling like a gimmick. And that's what the UFL, I believe, has done a great job of this year. So, no, I'm not dismissing spring football anymore. If anything, the 2026 season is the clearest proof that, yeah, there's a real lane here. And as soon as you stay smart and keep the product sharp, more people will pay attention. But before we get out of here, I want to do a quick national college football whip around. While the Sorsby case is dominating headlines, we also can't forget that the 12-team playoff is about to change who we call a playoff program. The SEC and the Big Ten's arms race is still about money, but the middle of those leagues is where the chaos is going to live, and we'll get more into that as the season approaches, as we're getting ready to kick off our conference breakdowns. And every offseason move, from portal additions to coordinator hires, is happening in a world where the NCAA's grip on enforcement is weaker than it's ever been. And we talked about that when we talked about Sorsby, the Big 12, and this injunction. And here's the thing. You could cue up George Strait, Amarillo by morning, because that's where this thing ends up. It ends up in Amarillo, Texas, if it's all said and done. Now, that would have to happen really fast. The other thing is everybody wants to say, Congress can save college football. Well, the odds of that happening is very slim, and I'll tell you why. I'm not a huge politics guy, but I do understand how a modern bill works in 2026 politics. The last time we've seen a standalone bill go through has been quite some time. What they're going to do is they're going to shove that college football bill in the defense bill or some other ungodly, convoluted bill, and they're going to stick it in there and make sure that it gets passed. You know how often that happens? It's not going to happen very often because the Senate, Congress, all of them, they all roll out here in the next couple of months. You're going to have to get that done in a month. It's not going to happen. And today's decision out of Lubbock, Texas, completely, it's, to be honest with you, it's not a one-off. It's another sign that the sport is shifting from a central NCAA control to a patchwork of conferences, courts, and individual cases. And all these other people that want to say, we don't now our teams, we don't really want to play them. We don't want to play Texas Tech. That's an interesting thought process. Very interesting thought process. And we'll get into more on that later in the week, because I've got much more to say and much more conversation on this Brendan Sorsby saga, because it's not ending. He's going to play this year. So with the Big 12 Media Days coming up, it's going to be very, very interesting to see if Texas Tech potentially even brings Brendan Sorsby to the Big 12 Media Days. And that's what makes this upcoming season maybe potentially the most fascinating one yet, especially in college football. But that's going to do it for tonight's episode of the Sports Buffet, coming to you live from the Athletic Brewing Studios here in Fayetteville, Arkansas. We hit the NBA Finals, Stanley Cup Final, college football, MLB, and the UFL, and we did it the way we always do it, folks, one full plate at a time. Big thanks to our partner, SeatGeek. Head over to SeatGeek now, 4-Star Sports Media, promo code, save you $20 off first ticket purchase of $50 or more. Athletic Brewing Company. Continue to do what they do. Head over to athleticbrewingcompany.com now. Find you some great beers. They are incredible tasting, and you don't get the effect. So it's really, really nice. But follow us here at 4-Star Sports Media across Facebook, YouTube, X, and Twitter, and everywhere else that you get our content. By the way, I'm Wes Pruitt. Subscribe share the show, leave a review. Keep it locked right here with us at 4-Star Sports Media as we keep you covered as sports doesn't sleep. Sports doesn't stop. We sleep, but sports doesn't stop, so we don't either. Appreciate you guys.
Hey, it's Wes Pruitt from 4-Star Sports Media. Before they make it to the majors, they make their mark right here in Northwest Arkansas. The Naturals are about to light up the diamond in 4-Star Sports Media as you cover it on every base. From rising stars to unforgettable moments, it all starts here with 4-Star Sports Media. Podcasts, live shows, and expert takes all in one place. 4star.live on web and 4-Star Sports M on X. Your 24/7 home for sports coverage from every possible angle.